Hey guys, it's Danny here with Let It Rip Tater Chip Channel, and today is another version of Journey into Metal. How one of my best friends, my brother Ethan Krebs here, has gotten into metal from his younger days until now. We're going to start from when he was younger to this point. So, what would you say would be your first inkling of like getting into metal? I know your father was a big metalhead, and what was your like first introduction into something like I really love this, and it's like really heavy?
I would have to say either System of a Down, if you would consider that heavy, or Slipknot. Those were the biggest ones I remember growing up.
Yeah. And what was like when you were listening to Slipknot and System of a Down? What was like the feeling that you got from it?
Oof. I was young at the time, so I couldn't really tell you. I just thought it was cool. Like, wow, this sounds awesome. It's so
Like
this, whatever this feeling is. I don't understand it.
I don't know what it is, but I like it.
Yes.
And then after you got into those bands and started branching out a little bit, what would be the next step? The next band that was like, okay,
Pantera. When I learned who they were,
Pan fucking
I'd heard
Terra.
all these songs from my father and never realized who they were. The ones sticking out the most being This Love, obviously from Vulgar Display of Power. That was a big one for me. It still is.
Yeah, it still holds up to this day.
So we went on to Pantera, and I think that's where it really kicked off.
Kicked off with Pantera. And was this around the same time that you started picking up guitar too, or were you just more listening to music?
I think the music came first. What really got my interest in guitar was actually a video game soundtrack, Quake 2, from the PS1 and PC days.
There you go.
Super awesome. It's industrial heavy rock, and you should check it out.
Awesome. So, good note on that. So, getting back to Pantera, what was... You mentioned This Love is from Vulgar Display of Power. What would be the Pantera album that is the hierarchy of like, this is what I want my metal to be, and this is what it has to be?
I almost have to say the Vulgar Display of Power. That's the album I had and listened to for the longest time before I got any of the other ones. So I had found that in my father's CD book. That's where a lot of my music came from.
So, passing from father to son, like my father, listening to 80s heavy metal, getting me into it, then picking up with Pantera in the early 90s and moving forward. Same with his father, so good. We must have the same father.
It makes sense.
Okay, now moving on from Pantera, going on later, getting into your later teens, early 20s, what was the different branches of metal besides thrash and Pantera that you started touching on a little bit?
Definitely that high school, what you say, emo, whatever, hardcore stuff for a little bit. I started with Sevenfold and then got into Atreyu, which is still number one.
You got a
Your favorite.
you got a new album coming out for Atreyu,
Yes.
don't you?
Next month on the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm super excited for that.
Well, there you go.
Super excited.
So, Avenged Sevenfold and Atreyu, I would say that's kind of where Pantera is. It kind of dipped down in the heaviness.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so I guess it's those high school days where like, I just like the popular thing at the time.
I wouldn't say popular. When I first heard Sevenfold, people talked about it all the time. I was like, I don't have an interest in that. Their first album, I don't know if you'd ever heard it.
I'd probably back in
Can't
the day.
even touch it. I cannot get into it. Such heavy screamo that you can't understand hardly any of it. So, there's that.
Ugh.
So I found actually Atreyu on LimeWire. Do you remember that
Oh
service?
my god!
I was downloading Avenged Sevenfold and I stumbled across Becoming the Bull. And that's where they became my number one. It's like, holy shit, these guys are super cool.
Fucking LimeWire. Sorry for the wind, guys. We're outside right now. LimeWire, that goes
That
way
takes it back,
back. But then going into your early 20s, what was more of the different genres and the different bands that you started dabbling in? And like, if Pantera didn't exist, this would be what I would want.
Mastodon.
Mastodon.
Mastodon is huge for me. Mastodon. Lamb of God.
So those are two
Uh,
really different styles of
yes. Very.
music. Mastodon is more, I would say, progressive metal with the way they use their techniques and all the different elements that they have in their song. Lamb of God is more straightforward, in just into your face.
Yes.
Let's get this fucking job done. And with that, what was one of your favorite Lamb of God albums?
Sacrament.
Sacrament is a wonderful
Ashes
album.
of the Wake and Sacrament.
Awesome.
Back to back, all day, every day.
And what would you say that your favorite Mastodon album is, if there is one?
Mastodon album. That's tough. I really liked Blood Mountain. Crack the Sky really stands out because the track itself, Crack the Sky, is my favorite track they do. It's super heavy. You should check it out, even though you don't really care for Mastodon.
Whatever. I will, anyway. Yeah. So, Mastodon and Lamb of God. Moving on from that, I know you listen to a lot of black metal and death metal nowadays to just bring that heaviness to your life. What is one of your favorite death metal bands, and what is one of your favorite black metal bands?
Jungle Rot for death metal, and probably Dimmu Borgir as black metal.
Gotcha. So Jungle Rot, I really love a lot too. They've been around for forever, but recently have just kind of gained ground.
Oh my God, that last album.
Oh, their last album was fantastic. Their last few albums have been really, really good. Back to back to back for like the last 3 or 4 albums have been consistent, but also are not getting stagnant.
Surprisingly, for how long they have been around,
Yes.
they've really kept the life in their music and the freshness to it.
And Dimmu Borgir, I know they kind of started off with like the classic black metal,
Yes.
and then have recently, well not recently, but over the last 10, 15 years, they've kind of changed their style a little bit.
It's actually only recently, the past 2 albums, they've gotten a lot more laid back, I suppose. But I mean, they've lost and changed out a few of the members that really drove that super heavy hitting sound. For the example, the drummer. They no longer have the same drummer, and that guy really gave it that
That
very,
edge.
yes, the very powerful anger that it needs.
So with that, all that metal, what would again be the cream on top? The final thing, if you were to be on a fucking desert island, you had one band to choose, what would it be?
It has to be Atreyu. As
Really?
much as you will hate me for that, it has to be
Really?
Atreyu. Yes.
Atreyu.
Yes. Can always come back to them.
I am actually very surprised it wasn't Pantera.
Hate to say it.
Anyway, so because I know that you're a big Pantera and big Dimebag Darrell fan, as both we are. That's actually how we became brothers.
It is.
Yeah, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I happened to get a new job at this one place, and I was putting something away on a shelf, and this random dude just comes up, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" I was like, "Oh, that's a cool robot chair that you're putting up or something." He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool. What's your favorite band?" I was like, "Pantera." and he didn't even like fucking say anything. He was just like, oh! And then from that moment on, it's been nonstop debauchery, and our lives have been intertwined for probably the rest of them, and I hope so.
Absolutely.
But guys, thank you for watching this episode of Journey to Metal with my friend Ethan. Also, remember to ring that bell down below so once I do make videos, you're notified when they are uploaded. Please subscribe, make comments, and just remember, guys, let it rip, Tater Chip.